Since 2013, our city has actually issued over 400 building permits. And in last year alone, we issued 120 building permits. So the numbers of people who are moving to North Plains have increased our population by 48%. North Plains is the fastest growing community in the Portland metro area. And it shouldn't come as too much of a surprise to many people because we are located right off of Highway 26. We are 15 to 20 minutes from, Intel, the Silicon Valley of the Northwest. And it makes it a very ideal community for people who work in this area in Western Washington County to live close to home. Our numbers also are going to increase in the next 5 years as we annexed in over 120 acres recently. We're looking at probably about another 600 to 700 new homes. And so that doubling of population is going to be a great concern of ours as far as our transportation and connectivity and getting people in and out of town in a safe and efficient manner. With that, we will need to partner with Washington County to help us, look at our transportation system plan and see how they can work with us to make that a little bit more manageable for our residents. So I anticipate future dialogue with the commissioners and with the county to make this happen for us.
Washington County used to be, before 1985, the interesting butt of a lot of jokes. We had a Name the Pothole contest. There was so much interest in how do we take a county, which is an agricultural county, with market roads into the 21st century.
Washington County has a huge opportunity because people are moving to Washington County, businesses are locating in Washington County, businesses are expanding in Washington County. So people want to be here, right? But really the challenge is making sure that the infrastructure supports all the people that are moving here, as well as providing a good level of service for those that are already here. The Oregon site is Intel's largest site anywhere in the world, and that's located in Washington County. We have 20,000 employees, we have our suppliers, we have our contractors, so we have a lot of people, products, and services that need to move in and out of our campuses around the county and around the region. And a reliable transportation system is really critical to ensuring that mobility.
The expansion areas in Washington County, in particular South Cooper Mountain, South Hillsborough, those are important because there are about 3,000 people a month move to the Portland metropolitan region. About 1,000 of those come to Washington County right now. And so having those developments to absorb that growth are going to be key to how we handle congestion in the region overall and how we handle housing in the region overall. And those are really two of our very key problems that we have.
No one can get any of these big projects done by themselves, and so I think it takes both the public sector and the private sector working together to solve our transportation issues and our infrastructure issues. Chair Duyck and the Board of Commissioners have taken a really collaborative and proactive approach to addressing transportation challenges. They really embraced public-private partnerships. And so when Intel made a major investment in the Ronler Acres campus, we embarked on a public-private partnership with the county, the City of Hillsborough, and the Department of Transportation to improve Cornelius Pass Road. And as part of that, we expanded the lanes, we added turn lanes, we added a buffered bike lane, as well as sidewalks to improve pedestrian access. And so really the outcome is a safer road for everyone, and it really enables us to get people moving and our products moving in and out of the county. And in fact, the county won an award for the project earlier this year, an Engineering Excellence Award.
I think there's two things that are very significant about the Southwest Corridor. One is that just on the ground, it helps to address the needs for transit into Washington County. The Southwest Corridor runs, of course, from downtown Portland out to ultimately serving close to Tualatin, if not into Tualatin. We've identified as a region that that's the next place that light rail should go. But the thing that I think is the most important about the Southwest Corridor is the planning process to arrive at the solution to the transportation problem has involved not just the cities and county governments that are along that route, but the communities along that route. And it's been an effort to look at other services. What are the parks like in that area? What is housing going to be like in that area? And it's a kind of a whole community approach to transportation planning that starts with the community, and then out of that community plan evolves a transportation component. In some respects, we learned that from Washington County because it's Washington County's ability to collaborate with the CPOs, the community planning organizations, but also with the cities. City-county relationship in Washington County is really a model for how city-county relationships ought to operate around the state.
Well, water is a very important part of our future, as it has been to our past. We wouldn't have this vibrant community that we enjoy had it not been for the construction of Hague Lake many years ago. In fact, there was a building moratorium that existed across Washington County. Part of the solution to that moratorium was to improve wastewater treatment and secure a source of water to restore the health of the Tualatin River. Those were critical elements in reopening the gateway to development and to really energizing a huge economic development series of decades that followed. And it's just as important today. And we are facing constraints in terms of the amount of water we have for the river. And we really need to increase environmental flows in the river to be able to accommodate continued economic development in our basin.
I've had the opportunity over the past several years, first in the state legislature and now as the member of Congress for Washington County, to work on the Scoggins Dam project with Washington County and with Clean Water Services. I applaud Chair Duyck for all of his commitment to this work, and I know we will be continuing with Chairman's successor in years to come. We have made some progress, but we must continue because it is so important to the growing population here in Washington County to make sure that everyone has access to clean drinking water, but that we also work in partnership and continue to work with our agriculture community, with the environmental community, and with everyone here who understands how important it is to be resilient, to be able to withstand an earthquake, because we know it's not if, it's when. So these are all priorities with the Scoggins Dam project.
We have to plan for the future. We are going to need a lot of water, and we're going to need more water than we've been using up to now. So we're going to have to run a big pipe from Wilsonville all the way up north, and it goes for about 2.7 miles through an area that's been recently rezoned for industrial. And the thought was we would be ahead of the game if we installed the pipe ahead of fixing the roads. Number one, the pipeline's kind of going where the roads are going to be anyway, and the roads need to be 5 lanes or so. Some of them will be 3 lanes initially, 5 lanes, but when you're burying a 5.5 foot in diameter pipe, it makes a terrible mess if you've already put in your 2 or 3 lanes, bike lanes, sidewalks, all that stuff. I mean, it's not something that drivers will find easy to live with that size of construction. One of the things, you know, Andy Duyck really pushes is he pushes to do things in a logical manner in a way that's a least cost function. And he kind of led us in going ahead to say, okay, we know where the pipeline's going, it's going about where the roads are going, let's go ahead and put the pipeline in now. And so by doing that, he's saved a lot of trouble and a lot of time and a lot of money, and making sure that we will have a good water source through the rest of this century.
Chair Duyck was helpful in securing congressional approval to allow Clean Water Services to couple an expansion to Hague Lake with the fix to the seismic issues. Previously, that wasn't accommodated in the federal statutes. And we secured that approval with Chair Duyck's leadership. And that has opened the door for us to either add on to the size of the project where it stands or build a project downstream. And in either case, be substantially more water, substantially more recreational opportunities, and in a more secure future for Washington County.
Affordable housing is an absolutely crucial need in Washington County in general, and Forest Grove is no different from the rest of the county.
Beaverton is an open and welcoming community, but it's getting more difficult to make it financially affordable for everyone to have housing.
If you recall, some years back, we were really concerned about jobs. Well, we've got lots of jobs, and a lot of them are high paying, and they put real pressure on housing costs. And then we've got a lot of job growth, frankly, that's been at the lower end, and those people are hard pressed to be able to keep up their salaries, and income is not kept up with the rapidly rising housing costs that have been pushed by strong demands.
And I can't think of a bigger challenge that we have. We're working on the economy, we're working on job growth, but we need to work on letting people live near where they work. And that can't be done by a city, it's got to be done by the entire county and all the cities in it. And I think Washington County, I'll simply say, is the best county in Oregon. I may get in trouble for that, but I think we do work well together. The mayors meet frequently, we discuss issues, and then we try to tackle them. We've got lots on our plates, but it can't be just the city or just the county or the state doing things. It's a group effort, and that's one of the leadership qualities that Andy's had. He's willing to talk with us. He and I don't always agree, but it's a good thing to disagree because that respect is there, and sometimes we do change our minds.
I think I moved back to Washington County around the time Andy Duyck became a commissioner and subsequently, of course, chair of the county commission. But since that time, in the mid-90s, I've seen him be actively engaged in the housing issue in a variety of ways. So starting with Metro's Affordable Housing Task Force or Technical Advisory Committee, HTAC, back in the 90s, he brought a toolkit to consider back to the county commission as a member of that group. And through that discussion and process that the county went through with Vision West to look at what are the key issues that will move the county forward into the next century, housing was a big one. And so I think with the toolkit of ideas, one of the things that came up was a housing trust fund. How could the county play a role in seeding projects that then could leverage support from other levels of government, state, federal, as well as the private sector. And I think that's something Andy always appreciated, seeing all sectors work together. So the Community Housing Fund was something that the County Commission came together around and supported, and he and the Commission have been there ever since.
I think we're addressing this in two different ways. One is at the sort of the median income, and you drop down maybe 20–30% below that. I think we can get the market to work better for us if we can, frankly, kind of get out of the way as a government and make that possible. I'm thinking about relaxing zoning in certain key areas along transit corridors in particular, but in some of our what have been designated town and business centers, we need to be able to allow very easily a wider range of housing types, duplexes and triplexes, allow for smaller units to be built, relax some parking requirements, and really streamline some of our permitting requirements.
The opportunity to get such buildings as Juniper Gardens 1 and Juniper Gardens 2 with Vienna Star and help from Community Development Block Grants, along with Cornelius Place, which is growing in our neighbor to the east and has 41 more units of affordable housing, as well as the Pomeroy Place in Aloha with 20 units of veterans housing. We're making a dent, but there are, as Robert Frost says, miles to go before we sleep in this battle against homelessness and finding places for people to sleep.
We've got the Barcelona going. We've got the Sunset View Apartments, which has been phenomenally successful. I think they booked up in about 4 seconds. Then we have Bridge Meadows Beaverton, which is a project for seniors and families adopting foster kids. And that has been marvelous. I invite everybody to have a tour of all these facilities. And it's just, the sad part is it's just a drop in the bucket of what we need to do.
And I have to say that I've had some real success, and I've worked pretty closely with our chair, Chair Duyck. He and I really feel the same way, that the market ultimately is going to have to take the bulk of the housing needs, get those requirements met. And we've been working pretty closely, and I appreciate his help on this. And I think that with his help, all of us pulling together on the board, that we're going to be able to do some pretty positive things for affordable housing.
Well, we're very, very excited to have this event center come to Hillsborough, and it's something that, we've been working with the county, and the county's been working on for years and years. And a county the size of Washington County, with over 600,000 people, we need, and frankly deserve, this kind of an event center. So when you think about the role that Washington County has played supporting businesses, supporting tourism, supporting transportation, the event center is an entity, is a place where it all comes together, because it's right on the max line, and it supports our businesses, because now it gives the opportunity for conferences to be held, for events to be held locally instead of leaving town.
I think that event center means a heck of a lot to Washington County. It's been a very, very long time in coming. I know Chair Duyck and I, probably almost 20 years ago, was our first introduction to getting to where we are today.
The Event Center is very exciting for the Washington County Visitors Association, as well as the 55 hotels that currently exist in Washington County, as well as the 6 or 7 new hotels that are coming forward. And the reason why this is an exciting project for us is that it finally gives all of us an opportunity to work together to actually see an increase in the overnight visitation to our community.
And of course, it just provides great opportunity for tourism, because as we have the Oregon International Air Show, we have the Hillsborough Hops, we have Bag and Baggage. We bring people in from all over for some great events. And now we have one more reason for people to come in and experience a conference, and then go enjoy some of the tourism opportunities that are not just in Hillsborough, but in Washington County as well.
When we talk about overnight visitation to the community, we're looking at someone that's spending upwards to over $200 in their expenditure if they're spending the night here. And when we take a look at that expenditure is not just being realized by the hotel accommodation in which they're sleeping in, it's also being realized, and that economic impact and that benefit is really being felt by our wineries, by our golf courses. It's being felt on our main streets, in the antique shops, and in the little stores that speckle the area. So we're real excited about being part of this economic engine.
Chair Duyck, through his leadership, we did not have to raise taxes or do tax increases or bond measures or anything else to get the event center. But it's going to be a great, great facility. It's almost 92,000 square feet. And I think the people who use the fairgrounds will find it really great, because it will be as useful for the eastern part of the county as it is for the western part of the county, the east being urban and the west being rural. Where you think of it as a fairground, you think of it as rural. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people to the east think of the fairgrounds as being something for those to the west and to the rural areas, but now it'll be an event center for everybody. And I got to tell you, over the 20 years, we've been up and down a lot of hills. People hate us. People want to, throw rocks at us, knife us, or whatever you want to think. But through all that, we've come through to a great event facility, and a very multiple facility for a lot of uses. But it'll still be Washington County Fairgrounds, and that's what's great.
We're also looking at the types of jobs that will be not only created, but the jobs that are also will be supported for now and into the future. We're excited about the type of events that can be held at that facility. We're excited about the sporting events that can now take place at the venue in Hillsborough. We're excited about the different types of conferences and conventions where we, as stewards of this county, have an opportunity to showcase the beauty and the magic that exists in Washington County and all of her 13 cities and towns.
Well, Andy's always had, long-term vision, whether it was as a county commissioner or currently as county chair. And so he recognizes that this isn't something that's just going to serve, the county and Hillsborough for the few years in the future, but truly in the long term. right across from our airport, right on the MAX lines. We have businesses that are expanding in Hillsborough and more opportunity for people to come in. And so as the county seat, it's just a perfect place for it to be. And again, the credit goes to Chair Duyck for having had not just the vision, but just the will to bring this about.
I can remember when Andy first started at the county. He seemed like a person from maybe a different time, a simpler way of life. He came in with not a great deal of experience. He really didn't understand the complexities of our issues, but what he lacked maybe in experience, he made up with his intelligence, with his motivation. He was a man of great integrity, a man of great forethought of what might be. He was somebody who gave you his word and you could trust it. His values were wonderful. His direction was great.
In 1996, I became the principal at North Plains Elementary School and began to attend the CPO meetings so I could learn more about the area and the issues that the area was experiencing. And it was at CPO meetings that I first met Andy. He was a couple of years into his first term as a county commissioner. And I was struck and always impressed by his honesty, his accessibility, the fact that he was willing to give difficult answers to difficult questions and then be held accountable for that. And since then, as a constituent, because I live obviously in Hillsborough, so I'm one of his constituents, but as a volunteer and then as a city councilor, now as mayor, I've realized and seen all throughout that those characteristics that I first witnessed back in 1996 are not only the way that he serves, but it's truly the way he lives his life, with integrity, honesty, and we will miss his leadership in Hillsborough and in Washington County.
So I like to think it's the practical farmer part of him. One of the things when it's your own business and you're running it, you try not to redo the work too many times. In other words, if you're going to do some work on the barn, do it before the hay's in the barn, not after the hay's in the barn, and now you got to take it out, protect it, and then put it back in when you get done. So I mean, that's just, so I'm going to give credit to some of his farming and business acumen for getting us to look at things that way, to see, okay, what's the least expensive, least amount of trouble, least cost to everyone involved.
Just a week or so ago, we were at the Pomeroy Place opening, which is a 20-unit project for veterans in Washington County, and Andy was reflecting, I think, back on all the other openings and projects that he'd been to over his tenure. We were talking about how people come from different perspectives on how to solve this problem, and he said something that I thought was really captured his leadership in Washington County, which was something to the extent that if we all spend enough time talking about an issue that we really care about, we will find our way to action. And I think that is something that he's done over his tenure, and that whoever steps in to follow will have some big shoes or a big shovel to grab. And we're looking forward to continuing that work with Washington County.
Well, I appreciate the leadership that Chair Duyck, that Andy, I would much rather call him that Andy has provided for Washington County, and in large part for the state of Oregon, because he's showing other county commissioners how it ought to be done.
Over the last 6 years, I've had the pleasure of working with Chair Duyck and the Washington County Commissioners. And one thing that I want to recognize and actually pay tribute to is the vision, the dream, the passion, and maybe sometimes the tenacity that Chair Duyck had in making this project become a reality. And also the beauty of this project, when we take a look at Chair Duyck's leadership, is that he was able to do that and help create this incredible place that we're all going to be very proud of.
Andy, it's been wonderful having you as head of the commission during this last 8 years. You've added a great deal. You're one of the most sincere, earnest elected officials I've ever met, and you've just added tremendous value.
Appreciate him sharing his life and time with this county. He's been decades serving the county, And he's, the last 8 years, I'm really thankful that I had the chance to work with him. And I think the county's a better place because of it. So.
Chair Duyck, thank you so much for your years of service, first as a commissioner and the past 8 years as chair of Washington County.
Bless you for all you've done. Enjoy your family time. You'll never know how much you've touched people in this county. You'll never know how deeply some of them you touch, and that's okay. The rest of us do know that, and that's a wonderful way to go off into the sunset and be a dad and a grandpa.
Thank you for being such a great example to elected leaders and officials all throughout our county. And we all wish you just the very best in your retirement and the adventures that lie ahead.
Andy's been a wonderful asset, a great leader to Washington County. And I guess I've called him a lot of things in terms of how we address him, whether he's our chair, whether he's someone who we say is a colleague, a leader. But the thing that I like to call him most is friend.